Did you ever notice in Halloween 2018 how James Jude Courtney presented Michael in a way where he is the calm within the storm? We're going to talk about it. Let's go.
Let's get down to brass tacks.
What's going on, guys? I've got to talk about Halloween 2018, in particular, the opening of the movie and all the little things that seem to be presented by James Jude Courtney, especially in his performance as Michael Myers and how it relates to the character. And with 2018, I've said it once and I'll say it again, I really appreciated what they did with the movie. I appreciated the characters and how things were presented, the attention to detail. There's so much attention to detail in this movie. I've got to talk more about that at some point. But when it opens up, we're introduced to these two journalists, Dana and Aaron, and through their eyes, we get reintroduced to Michael Myers in his captive state at Smith's Grove. You see a lot of different things in the beginning when you're seeing the patients and you're seeing, the walls and the floor, and you get introduced to Dr. Sartain, who, by the way, when they introduced Dr. Sartain, as soon as he was coming through the door, Aaron was talking about the monster, referring to Michael Myers. But it was interesting that when he said that word, when he said that phrase, Sartain had just come through the door.
The word, this monster. Good afternoon.
And I think that was definitely some foreshadowing of Sartain, who, as we know, really went down a dark path, infected by Michael and his presence, and definitely the opposite of what Dr. Loomis was. Granted, he spent a lot more time with Michael, it seems, but needless to say, he became a monster, as we saw further down in the movie, about halfway through the movie, when he tried to kill Frank. Presumably, we thought he killed Frank, but he didn't, and that was good news. But anyways, when he's talking to the podcasters, the journalists, when he's talking to Dana and Aaron, and they walk out into the courtyard, I think that was such a smart, cool place to be reintroduced to Michael up close and personal. You have these different patients all around, and of course, the ground is like, checkered board. It's really, really cool. It's almost like you're playing a game of chess with Michael, or any of them, to be quite honest, because he's chained up and he's in this square, and that's the only amount of space that he could move, one way or the other. So Sartain is definitely curious about Michael, and we get that right from the beginning. He talks about how Loomis was the only one that saw him out in the wild and so forth. Michael is standing still like a statue, okay? And again, I'm referencing the great performance of James Jude Courtney, and I'm probably gonna, say this a bunch of times, but I really think that he portrayed Michael in such an amazing way that even though he's in the white outfit, the white patient outfit with no mask, he looked like Michael Myers standing there. He truly did. And as Aaron and Dana get closer and Dr. Sartain introduces them, and I'm telling you, man, when I first saw this movie in the theater, and we had seen some of these clips from the promotional material in the trailers, but seeing him pull the mask out, it was just surreal, not only as a Halloween fan, but just as a viewer of this film. And as soon as he started pulling it out, the music, I just loved the music choice that they had, and all the patients, they just start going batshit crazy. The dogs are whimpering, and it's just so interesting that this scene was our reintroduction to Michael. I think it was a very smart way to do it, because Aaron is also trying to get a reaction out of Michael, but I think Aaron himself is reacting to the situation. He also is very curious about Michael. He is curious about what happened back in 78. And you could see, he was really, the actor did a really good job who played Aaron, and he was getting really amped up. You could see Dana getting more nervous. Sartain was just kind of scanning. He was just trying to, I think, take it all in and observe and absorb what was going on. And everyone's going batshit crazy. And you know who's not going batshit crazy? Michael Myers. He is the only one that is standing still like a stone cold statue. The only thing he did is when Aaron at first pulled out that mask, James Dew Courtney, it was a really cool shot because he just turns just a little bit. And by the way, a lot of credit to all the little attention to detail. You can see the scar from the 78 encounter with him and Lori when she stabbed him with the knitting needle. You can see that scar on James Dew Courtney. I mean, these guys, again, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again because I know some people don't always hear everything, or they don't see every video, but these guys for these films in this trilogy, I know there's a lot of divisiveness, I know that, but I also know there's a really passionate fan base that does like to talk about these films, whether they love them or absolutely despise them. And just speaking for 2018, they really did a great job on the little details. They really, really did. There were things that even when I just watched it again, I've seen the movie a bunch of times, saw it in the theater too, but I still every once in a while will catch new details like, oh wow, they did that, or oh wow, they did this. And in this movie, a lot of attention to detail. But again, the point I want to bring here is that while everyone's going crazy, and some people say it's the mask, it's the evil of the mask, or it's because people around know that the mask is connected to Michael and his evil, or maybe it's just one of those things, right? Because you've got these two journalists that are trying to interview Michael Myers. Whatever it is that's making everyone kind of amped up and crazy and shaking and yelling and laughing and screaming, it's so interesting. But it's right. I think it's correct that Michael is stone cold still. Like, he's not moving at all. And that's the same way that he is when he kills, when he attacks, when he's pursuing. There's no emotion, right? There's just nothing there. He's devoid of a conscience. That's what Loomis has said. That's what we know of him from 78. And of course, throughout the series, they played around with that a little bit in the sequel and so forth, but at the base of everything, that's his mythology, that he's a shape of a man, right? And in that moment, in that scene, James Dew Courtney presented that just by being completely still. Now, I know some people say, oh, well, big deal, he just stood there. But I do think, and speaking with James Dew Courtney myself, when I was so fortunate to interview him, I know that he was looking way deeper than what he saw on the page for the script. I know that. I really do. And he's a very spiritual person. So I know that he kind of had that in his mindset when he was there, taking the moment in and just being, you know what I'm saying? And I think it was really, really cool because there's a lot of great actors that have portrayed Michael Myers, and a lot of these actors have had different ways that they portrayed him. Some have been more human-like, you know what I'm saying, more agile. Some have been more brutish. Some have been more, rigid and Frankenstein-like and so forth. I think with James, he really took the best of what Michael should be, in my opinion, and he presented it in this film. And in this scene, you definitely saw that, just standing there, and then boom, cuts to the opening titles. I think it's a fantastic opening to the movie, and I haven't had a chance to really talk about that scene much. And even as a fan and a viewer, I didn't really think of it too much. I mean, I loved it and I was seeing these things, but I didn't really sit back and think about the fact that everyone going crazy, Michael just standing there like there's nothing to it, no emotion, no reaction. And that's exactly what he was. He was in captivity for 40 years and never uttered a word. never uttered a word. So it goes in line with his character. It truly does. And unfortunately, and I love so many of the movies in this franchise. I'm a big fan of the franchise, obviously. But there have been many times in the franchise where there are things that Michael does that doesn't always line up with the mythology or even the mythology in that particular movie. This is an example of where it set the table really well and it carried throughout the whole film from A to Z. So anyways, I wanted to take time to talk about that scene, see what you guys thought of it as an opening. Did you think it was an opening that was worthy of a Halloween movie? Did it get you set up for the rest of the film? Did you enjoy it? Did James Drew Courtney do a good job in the portrayal of Michael in that scene where he just was there? In Halloween Kills, this time, Michael Myers is the chaos inside of the storm. I'll explain what I'm talking about. Let's go. Here we are going into our next segment when we're talking about the scenes within the Halloween franchise, specifically the trilogy. In Halloween Kills, we continue this story of Michael after, in the events of 2018, he was inside of the basement, the literal panic room or panic basement of Laurie Strode, which was a great ending to 2018, in my opinion. In the beginning of 2018, we were reintroduced to Michael and we saw how he was the calm inside of the storm when all of the inmates, the dogs, Aaron, Dana, even Sartain, were literally losing their minds, going batshit crazy. What I wanted to do is talk about this scene in Halloween Kills and how it's kind of the next step of Michael Myers and the mythology that David Gordon Green created in this trilogy. Love it or hate it, I think these are things that were evident in these movies. So in Halloween Kills, we get a little bit of a introduction of some of the characters, namely Tommy and Lindsay and also Nurse Marion. And then after about 10 minutes, we see Laurie, Karen, and Allison are being taken away in that truck that they hopped on at the end of 2018 to go to the hospital. And Laurie hears the sirens of the firefighters and she's freaking out. Let it burn, let it burn. She knows that they're going there to put out the fire, which was the trap that they set for Michael in 2018. Here's where we get into the meat of the story. The firefighters, first of all, this scene was absolutely amazing, not only in the way it was shot, but I think all of the little details and the underlying themes that were playing into this, it looked great. It was great seeing these first responders coming there and kind of going through their motions and all of their tactics and techniques. But you have one firefighter that unfortunately he sees where the trap door is to the basement. And it's kind of that quick, oh yeah, that's right. That's where Michael was at the end of 2018. Well, obviously he's not there right now, and the fire is burning inside of Laurie's house. Next thing you know, he falls through the floor. There was structural damage, falls right through the floor down into the basement. Now, when I first saw this movie in the theater, first thing I'm thinking of is, okay, where is Michael? Where is he? How is he going to get out of this? Because you know he's going to get out of it, but you just don't know exactly how it's going to go. I didn't even think about the gun locker. I'm not going to lie. I did not even think about the gun locker. The guy sees Michael opening up the locker and he's like, oh shit. And that's exactly what I would say too. And again, James Drew Courtney, he's portraying this so well. Still that calmness, still that Michael Myers mythology. But I do think that there's a little bit of a difference that's about to be displayed by him. He kills that firefighter and, as usual, does his little head tilt. Now, again, the house is burning. The house is burning. You've got these first responders. They are there with all of their gear, and they've obviously got their mask on so they don't have any issues with smoke inhalation. Michael is just standing there like da 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 da, and it's not even affecting him. It's not even phasing him. When he kills that first responder that he sees when he comes out of the gun locker, he kills him, and then he's just kind of doing his thing, his head tilt. I think that this also came to my mind too. I think that when Michael is killing and he has those moments of reflection, or he's staring at them or whatever, one thing that kind of comes to my mind is he connecting with these people in that moment? You know, kind of like seeing their last moments leave their physical body. And you know, that's kind of another topic maybe for another day. You guys can let me know what you think in the comment section down below. That's the thing with these Halloween movies and with Michael as a horror icon. I think there's so much conversation that you can have because of the way that he's presented. There's a lot of layers that are right there in front of you, some that can be easily seen and some that are a little bit harder to be seen. And through these conversations, through videos, discussions, and obviously all the passion of the community, you can kind of get a chance to talk about it. But he kills that first responder, too bad for him. And then you've got the other one that comes to the place where the tracker had gone off, which was a cool thing to see how, you know, if they get separated and there's smoke and you can't see, this is how they can find each other. And so he's leaning over the hole into the basement, reaching his hand out, and we all know that he's going to get grabbed by Michael. We know it. It's evident. He gets pulled down. Now, I think it was kind of cool because they didn't show what he did to that first responder. And so you're kind of just, again, when you're watching this for the first time and you're trying to see this scene play out, you're wondering, how is it going to go? And then they cut to the outside of the house where you have the other firefighters. I think it was at least 5 of them, 4 or 5 of them. And then here's the scene, guys. This is the scene that I really wanted to talk about or focus on this video. Michael emerging from the house. Okay, now there's a lot of things to be said here. I'm going to try to make sure I get it all out. First of all, the way that the scene is shot, it looks absolutely beautiful. The house is burning. You see the fire hose that's sprinkling the water down, and James just comes right into view. The darkness, he comes out of the darkness because there is that shadow within the house, but he emerges from the darkness. It's very reminiscent in a way to in 78 when he comes out of that darkness behind Laurie. He just emerges. He's the shape. In this instance, it's ramped up because he's coming out of a burning house, guys. And when he's coming out of the burning house, he is walking. He is not running. He is walking. There's fire all around him. And one thing to piggyback to 2018, which I thought was really interesting, is when Laurie and Allison and Karen set the trap and they light up the basement and the rest of the house as well, Michael is just staring up at them. There's fire all around this guy. He's not even fazed by the heat. He's just staring up. Again, I think it's a very, when you look at it in that moment, I think it's a very cool but also effective way to symbolize Michael Myers, to show that he is the shape. He's not there is no conscience, right? He's a man because he can be hurt, he bleeds, but he's not fazed by the fire. So in Halloween Kills, when he's walking outside of the house, and again, it's kind of got that slow-mo type of vibe going on, and he's just strolling out. You see the look on the firefighter's face. I gotta admit, man, I'd be thinking the same exact thing. And that amazement that they have, that astonishment that they have in their eyes, to me, when I think about it, it's like a symbol of evil emerging from the fire, like a demon or the devil emerging from hell. That's exactly the vibe that I'm getting in this scene from Halloween Kills. Now, whether or not that was the intent of David Gordon Green and the other filmmakers, I have no idea specifically on that, but that is what I'm getting out of that evil emerging from literal fire. There's no way that he should be that calm in just his regular mechanic coveralls and a Halloween mask. And by the way, again, it's not a mask like what the firefighters have on. This is just a regular Halloween mask that's 40 something years old, and he's not having any issues breathing. He doesn't have any effects of smoke inhalation. He had to have been in the basement. You assume he had been in the basement for several minutes before the firefighters even got there. You assume that at least 10 minutes is what I would say, that he was in that basement with the house burning before the firefighters even stepped on Laurie's property, because she was pretty far out from what it looked like in 2018 as far as where her house or compound was located. But these firefighters, they're staring at him, and I can only imagine what was going on in their mind. Now, this is where I'm saying this is like that chaos within the storm. It's a controlled chaos, but Michael comes to the steps. He's got his weapon, and he just kind of gets ready, and he walks down the stairs. That same walk. He's the greatest. He's the greatest slow walker of all time. I've also called him the fastest slow walker of all time. But as he's walking, these guys who see him, they're still in astonishment. Like, Michael is coming right at them. It's like a shark. When you see that shark coming towards the boat, you have that moment. It's like, fight or flight or freeze, right? And you got the one firefighter that shoots the water hose right at him. That doesn't do anything. It's not going to do anything. And then Michael just obliterates people. He's stabbing them. He's lifting them up. Another thing I wanted to talk about was how, and I know most people enjoy this scene. There are some people that they're not on board with it as much because they see it as over the top. They see it as, and now Michael can, he can fight a bunch of people. But here's the thing for me, why I'm okay with it, because you got to put it into this context. Michael comes out of a burning house. He knows that he's got to be on the move. You've got 6 or 7 guys, however many it was, maybe it was just 5 or 6, but it seemed like a lot more, that are right there in front of him. One's got the jaws of life, the saw thing, and he just has to take care of business. So when they swing at him, he's moving out of the way, and then he's just swinging like a baseball bat. I don't think it's polished at all. I think it's just the way that he would fight someone or handle someone that physically is trying to attack him. Okay. And then you've got the scene where when he stabs one of the firefighters and he lifts him up, and the way he lifts him up with, both hands. And I think that the thing about that scene, because I've heard some people say, well, that was just so unrealistic. It was out of character for Michael. But again, you got to remember, in 78, he lifts up Bob. He's got 2 hands right there, lifts him up, and he's strong enough to stab him. And then the knife goes into the wall and holds Bob up. You figure Bob's at least 180 pounds, right? So with this firefighter and lifting him up, that's totally believable for Michael Myers at this point, and not that it counts in the trilogy timeline, but even in Halloween 2, he lifted up the nurse right at the end, just like that, with one hand. So this is par for the course for Michael. Totally, it really is. Shout out to Linda when I said totally. Totally. But anyways, so when he lifts him up and he just throws down his weapon, he turns the saw on the other. I mean, it's a great scene. It's total carnage, and what a way to open the film. And the point I want to make, and I want you guys to let me know what you think, is that this was a different angle of Michael for his introduction in the beginning of the film. Whereas in 2018, I would say he was dormant, so to speak. Definitely the calm inside of the storm while everyone else is going crazy. In Kills, he is on task. He's not dormant any longer. And now he is that controlled chaos inside of the storm because he's clearing out these firefighters. And again, on a different level, it's a great way in a movie to to show that evil emerging from the abyss, evil emerging from the fire, the devil coming straight out of hell and ready to unleash on any poor victim. That's what this scene was to me. Just my opinion. For you guys, let me know what you think about this scene. Was it a scene that you enjoyed? Did you think it was done well? Were you against it? Again, I know some people weren't very high on it, and that's perfectly fine. But again, I think it was a great scene because it had many levels with it. It was filmed in a very, very amazing way. And I don't think Michael has ever looked any better than he has in this trilogy. And this is a great example of it. In Halloween Kills, there is a focus or an eye of the storm. And I'm going to tell you what it is for Michael Myers. Let's go. As I continue this mini series talking about the different scenes in the Halloween trilogy that I think are very, very important, we go to another part of Halloween Kills and we talk about what I would like to call the eye of the storm, which means the focus of the storm. And for Michael Myers, in my opinion, it's one thing and one thing only.
See anything you like?
You're goddamn right.
And that's the mask. The mask is what is a driving force, a focus for Michael Myers. And we see this not only in Halloween Kills, but we saw it in 2018 as well. We've also seen it in the other movies, notably in Halloween 78, at the end of the film when he attacks Laurie and she just by accident grabs at his mask and starts to pull it off. As soon as she pulls it off, he stops everything. And this is Michael as a young man. He was fixated on this mask as a young man. Of course, that's when Loomis had come up the steps and was able to shoot Michael, saving Laurie. And then, of course, he had to shoot him a bunch more times. Was it 6?
I shot him 6 times. I shot him in the heart. Can't have gotten very far. Come on. I shot him 6 times.
Who knows? Anyways, but before I get deeper into my thoughts on this, don't forget to hit the like button. If you are a fan of the Halloween movies or horror in general, or any movies, this is the channel where you should be. So please hit the like button and make sure you subscribe for more content from us. As I was saying, this mask has been shown to be not only an advantage for Michael Myers, but also a weakness of sorts. In Halloween Kills, the scene in the park when Lindsay, very smartly by the way, hits Michael with a bag of bricks. I mean, that was just some real great ingenuity on Lindsay's part. He grabs her and he was going to kill her. We've seen that 1,000 times before, but she did something that, like I said, Laurie had done in the 78 Halloween, and she grabbed for that mask, starts pulling it off, and Michael reacted like an animal. Get off! Throws her down. So again, you can see how fixated Michael is with this mask. In our previous episodes in this mini-series, we talked about the opening of 2018 and how everybody was going batshit crazy when Aaron showed Michael the mask. Everyone was going crazy except for Michael. It's almost as if he has that connection to that mask. It draws out his inner strength, his inner evil. It makes him, ready to be on task and not dormant any longer. But we've seen this a couple times, and the scene that I want to talk about specifically in Halloween Kills is near the end when Allison bravely tries to take on Michael Myers. Cameron does too. He doesn't do very well, and unfortunately has one of the most brutal kills maybe in the whole franchise. Definitely the most brutal kill in the film, in my opinion. You guys let me know what you think about that. But Allison tries to save her boyfriend and can't do it, and Michael comes down the stairs ready to take her out, and out of the blue, Karen makes the save and starts to complete her character arc, which I think was a very good character arc. I was totally back on board with her. Well, I should say I was on board with her at this point, because in 2018 she was just a character that seemed like she just was so out of touch with reality. But through the events of Halloween Kills, from the end of 2018 as well. But throughout Halloween Kills, I think she became such a more interesting character that I could get on board with, and just showing that she also had a lot of courage inside of her, just like her mother and obviously her daughter. But Karen attacks Michael with the pitchfork. He's hurt. He gets knocked down. She stomps him. And I'm thinking, when I first saw this, I'm thinking, did they kill him? No, they didn't kill him. My mind was going all over the place. But she took the mask. It was almost like she knew about the mask and its connection with Michael, or Michael and his connection with the mask. She took the mask, and then of course Michael gets up quick. He's like, what did you just do? You don't take my mask. He gets up quick. I know a lot of people out there that say that Michael spoke in this scene kind of almost like a breathy type of speaking, saying, give it back. I've watched that scene tons and tons of times. It's the type of thing, in my opinion, just my humble opinion, you guys let me know what you think, but it's the type of thing where when you know that people are thinking he's talking, it's almost like you can hear that. But to me, I think it was not any bit of him speaking, just breathing and just you know what I mean, not any type of words. I believe there was a time when James Jude Courtney confirmed that. I could be wrong. You guys let me know in the comment section down below. But anyways, she has the mask and she's like, you want your mask? Come and get it.
You want your mask? Come and get it! You want to fucking kill someone? Take me!
It was such a great scene, man, for Karen, but it got even better. It got even better because as she's leaving, trying to basically bring Michael away from Allison, who's injured, totally injured, Michael is walking after Karen, walking through the shadows. James Jude Courtney, again, just an amazing performance, but I want to give some credit to the lighting. And David Gordon Green spoke a lot about how much time they put in to making sure that the lighting for James was always well done, especially when he has the mask on. But this is different because he doesn't have the mask on. So they were showing him front and center, but there was shadow over his face. You couldn't see much of his face. Maybe you saw 15% of his face. And it was so cool because as he's walking, it didn't matter if there was like, the street lights outside or the moon or whatever. It's like there was always this constant shadow in his face. And I know that was something that they had to work really hard on. And I give them a lot of credit. Again, they were just showing how much detail they had for the little things. And again, I think it was so well done and definitely appreciated by me as a fan of this franchise and this icon. So Michael is coming after Karen, and I'm thinking she better get away, she better run. But lo and behold, it's a setup. It was all a trap. It was set up to have the whole freaking town, it seemed like, now it's probably just about 20 people, but it seemed like it was millions that lined up ready to come after Michael. Now he doesn't know this because all he sees is the mask on the ground. But again, this is what he's drawn to. Nothing else matters. There is this connection that he has to this mask. He needs his mask and he needs to be at his house looking out that damn window. And I think there might be even a connection between the mask and the house. And when he is staring and looking within instead of looking outwards, maybe when he has his mask on, maybe he sees different. Maybe that's why, and we talked about this in my last video where I talked about how, he was in the firefighter scene, and when he was looking at the first responders and doing the head tilt, is he connecting with them as they are dying or as they are dead? Again, there's a lot of different things going on. But with this mask situation, he's ready to pick up this mask. Everything's Christmas dinner for him. And all of a sudden the lights come on and man, he is surrounded. James was so great in this scene because he looks both ways. You got Karen with the great stinger where she says, gotcha, again, which was a nice callback to 2018. I think it's a cute little thing that they had for Karen. And he's being surrounded by tons of people, and he looks, and you guys, if you've been on my channel long enough, if you've watched enough of my Halloween content, and there are tons of videos and live stream that I've done on Halloween, especially this movie and the trilogy. I absolutely love this scene because he sees all of these people that are ready to go against him, to stop him from his goal, whatever that may be. And we know there's multiple things kind of going on. All that James Jude Courtney, as Michael Myers, does is just look down and grab the mask. That's all that matters. He's got all these people on the right and left of him, weapons in hand, guns, bats, irons, you name it. It's crazy. Rocks, sticks, stones, it's just crazy. And he just picks up the mask. It's almost like nothing else mattered in that moment. He has to kneel down and pick up that mask, and then he puts it on. It's just crazy to me, just that whole mentality of it all. And as he's putting it on, I kid you not, it was little things, because the look on Karen's face, you could see like fear building back up. I think that she looked at this as a game plan to bait Michael and get him trapped, and then the mob was going to take care of him. But when he just so nonchalantly bent down to pick up the mask and put it on, as if to say, hey, so what? I mean, the look on her face was like, uh-oh. Did we trap him or did he trap us, right? And Michael, again, James Jude Courtney is perfect in this scene. I think he was just so amazing in his portrayal. He just turns and looks around, and then, even with the crowd, you can even tell with the crowd, they have a little bit of unease, and then they go at him, and it's this big fight scene. Now, I know there's some people that aren't fans of this scene, just like there were some people that were not fans of the firefighter scene, but I think this scene spoke so much to what Michael is, what his mythology is about. He literally put himself inside of a trap to get that mask. Michael isn't stupid. Michael is not a stupid, character. He's shown to have a lot of intelligence and savvy and so forth. But he put himself in that situation just to get the mask. Why? Because the mask is the focus, the centerpiece, the eye within the storm that is Michael Myers. That's how I see this scene. And the people are beating on him. He got shot like 4 or 5 times. He got stabbed by Karen. It literally, I remember seeing it in the theater, and we're thinking, oh my God, they are taking this son of a bitch out. Everything seemed perfect. Even when he was trying to grab for his knife, you could tell that he was hurt. This monster, this evil in the shell of a man, because he was hurt in that moment. And I think, they start to kind of do the little, the voiceover and kind of cut back to the scene with Laurie and Frank and talking about if only we knew then what we know now, and how he's transcending because of the fear that people have. I truly think that when he was beat down, the mob, maybe not everyone in the mob, but I think there were people there that were thinking, is it over? Is it done? I know that's probably what I'd be thinking, because you've seen this guy do so many things that seem impossible. It's just absolutely crazy. And of course, as we know, boom, he just comes right back up and takes people out. I mean, he's slicing them up, he's beating them up, he kills Tommy, he kills Brackett, he kills everyone, and it's a flurry of death, blood, body parts, bodies being strung around. I mean, he takes them out in ways that it was unbelievable. But it's Michael Myers, that storm. He has that effect on people. That's what he has. And that mask is his centerpiece. It's almost kind of like his greatest weapon in a way. I mean, obviously he has the butcher knife, but he can use anything. He uses his hands almost as much as he uses the butcher knife. But that mask, that's the glue. That's what brings everything together and keeps him together. And this was a scene where I definitely think it was illustrated so well, because he put himself in a bad situation. And again, we know that he is very careful about things. He stalks, he watches from the corners, watches from the dark, comes out silent and sneaky like a ninja, takes people out. In this scene, he did not care because he had to get the mask. That's what I think. And I think it was a great scene in Halloween Kills. And I know there are a lot of people that aren't fans of the movie, and that's perfectly fine. But for me, this was just an amazing scene. After the amazing firefighter scene in Halloween Kills, what was Michael's mindset when he goes to Laurie Strode's neighbor's house? I think I got an idea. Let's talk about it. We're going to be talking about another scene in Halloween Kills that stands out, in my humble opinion, as we continue to go through different moments in the franchise that stand out, and going a little bit deeper into the mindset and the reasons and so forth behind those scenes, whether it be the courtyard scene in 2018, the firefighter scene in Halloween Kills, and also the standoff against Haddonfield, which felt like it was Michael against the world. Sometimes that's just what happens in a Halloween film. But no, seriously, guys, today what I wanted to get a little bit deeper into is that fantastic scene that happened after Michael escaped Laurie's house, dealing with all of the firefighters and so forth. He's walking and he comes upon her neighbor's house, Phil and Sandra. Now, this is a scene that I think is really, really interesting, the way that it was shown, because the first thing that you see in that scene is Phil and Sandra just being a couple, hanging out, and they're playing with this toy drone. And it actually was a pretty cute scene, to be honest with you. One thing about these Halloween films, especially this trilogy, you get to see some folks of different ages, and also you see Michael dealing with people of different ages, whether it's the kid in 2018 and obviously now with this elderly couple in Halloween Kills. So I think it's kind of cool that you get a sense of like real life. It's not always just, you know, teenagers and 20-something year olds. They're just hanging out, doing what they usually do on an evening. They have no idea what's going on because they don't have anything to do with Laurie. She's the crazy lady that has a compound and all of that stuff. But Michael is in the bathroom and Phil discovers Michael. Now, here's the first thing that I want to talk about. I've got 4 major points about this scene that I would like to talk to you guys about. Here's the thing, guys, and I don't think many people talk about it. I haven't really heard anyone talking about it, but the first thing that comes into my mind is, why is Michael at the neighbor's house? Now, there's a couple different ways you can look at it. This is just my humble opinion, the way I'm piecing the puzzle together. But some people may think Michael is just doing what Michael does. He's rolling the dice. You may live, you may die. There's no rhyme or reason behind it. That's cool. That's par for the course. I can understand that. But here's what I'm thinking. You guys got to remember, this is right after the events of 2018, right after him getting out of the burning house and so forth. In 2018, at the end of the film, when he is basically going against Laurie and Allison and Karen, first thing that happens with Laurie when he tries to get into the house, his hand gets blown off. His freaking hand gets blown off and it is bloody and everything, right? You even have that scene in 2018 when him and Laurie are fighting with each other. It's a great little scene when she discovers him in the room full of mannequins, and she even bites his bloody stump where his couple fingers were blown off. I mean, that was pretty badass. Those are like little moments that even myself, sometimes I forget to acknowledge and think about. But anyways, so his hand is effed up. I mean, for real, right?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, bitch.
So he escapes from the firefighters and the burning house. He basically obliterates the firefighters. So he goes to Phil and Sandra's house and he's in the bathroom. Now, my feeling, and it was shown when he goes to kill Phil, he bandaged his hand. What do you have in a bathroom? You have first aid supplies, you know, whether you have bandages, band-aids, alcohol, peroxide, you name it. And that's exactly what he's doing in their bathroom. He's bandaging up his hand. You see it in a scene later when he's attacking Phil, and you see his hands around Phil, killing him. So Michael Myers went to bandage his hand. Now again, I'm going to piggyback you guys. If you haven't seen all my videos on Michael, and especially this mini series, the Storm series, check it out. Michael is a man. Michael is not superhuman. He is not a superhero. He is not mystical or magical. There is an evil inside of him. There's an evil inside of people that are walking this earth right now. You know what I'm saying? So he bleeds. He gets hurt. It's just that in these films, he just keeps coming back one way or another. But anyways, he's bandaging up his hand, taking care of his hand, because that was injured by Laurie Strode in Halloween 2018. When Phil discovers him, and you see that shot where you can see into the bathroom, and he just hits the light, basically like, no, turn off the lights type of thing. And then boom, Phil, unfortunately, and it's a great scene the way it's set up. I don't think people give it enough credit the way it's set up, because you think Phil's gonna escape. He's doing the right thing. They're both like getting away. He shuts the door and they start kind of walking or pseudo running, and then Michael comes through the glass of the door or the window of the door, whatever, and basically kills Phil that way. But when he does that, you can see that hand, that left hand, is bandaged, and it looks pretty fresh. So again, Michael went to bandage his hand. Now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of the scene. This is what I really wanted to dig into, and I've heard a lot of different ideas. I've talked about different ideas on live streams and videos, so definitely keep your eyes open. But when he kills Phil and then Sandra, unfortunately, I mean, I think it was basically like she just froze, man, and that can happen, right? And he takes that light fixture and just boom, stabs it right into her throat. Like, wow. I mean, what a scene. The practical work is absolutely ridiculously phenomenal. And then you think that she's dead, but she's not. She's dying. And the camera pans from in front of her to the side, and you saw that Michael grabbed Phil, and then he's, you just can imagine he's killing him because you can hear thumping. And then as the camera pans from the front of Sandra's face, you realize that she's slumped on the floor. She's actually watching Michael definitively kill Phil. He's taking knives and stabbing them into Phil. Now, the thing that's crazy about this, he stabs him like 4 or 5 times. He takes knives right out of their, little, contraption for knives, and he's like stabbing him. I mean, you hear it time and time again, but it's not in full focus. It's just a little bit out of focus. You got that music that's underneath. It's fantastic, guys. I mean, this is some stuff that, and I'm saying this obviously as a fan, so I get that. That's the perspective I'm coming from. But even just pulling back and just as a movie watcher, a horror movie watcher, some of these scenes like this one, you don't usually get these different layers, for a kill. Back in the day in the 80s, if someone had a knife, and even Michael has done this, even within the franchise, even within this trilogy, he just stabs you, boom, you're dead. This movie really pulled back and took its time with this scene, and I think it was saying a couple of different things. Now, here are my 4 points. I've heard some people say that when he's doing this, he's setting up Phil as a display. We've seen that time and time again in the Halloween films. Michael displays his victims. It's almost like it's a game of sorts. We saw that famously in so many movies, like in 78 when he sets up Annie with Judith's headstone and everyone else and so forth, and all these different movies where victims are just found and so forth. So it's almost like it's the first time, if you really look at it this way, and I do think there's some of that going on, but I have an even better point. But real quick, think about that. this is the first time that we actually get to see Michael setting up the display of one of his victims. That's pretty cool, man. No other movie that I can think of has shown it. Now, you guys let me know in the comment section down below if I'm wrong. I could be. Again, this is the 12th film in a 45-year-old franchise, and they were still doing some things that were new or giving us perspectives or angles that were different. So I appreciate that. The first time that we're seeing Michael set up his display of his victim. Pretty phenomenal. Okay, so that's one point. Let's go to the next point. And my brother made this point on a live stream when we talked about ends a while ago, but his idea, and I can see this too, Michael was testing the knives, which one is the best knife, because he's like throwing them, boom, right into Phil. And it's like, wow. Another thing I want to mention too, and I've talked about this, is James Drew Courtney as Michael. As he's doing it, you have a sense of power, maybe rage, maybe evil, frustration, preparation. I'm going to get to that. But you never hear anything, which is, to me, very creepy. Much different than how Michael was portrayed in other movies, most notably like, Rob Zombie's Halloween. There was, when he was enraged, you knew it because there was, audible sounds and so forth. But the idea of testing the knives, which one is the best, and then of course when he gets to the 5th or 6th one, he kind of looks at it and then boom, he just walks, and Sandra is just sitting there watching her husband dead as Michael just walks away. He accomplished what he wanted to do. I think that's an interesting point, testing the knives. Another point is he testing his arm? Because he is one-armed basically. From the end of 2018, when Laurie blows off his fingers, he's pretty much one-armed. I mean, he uses that bad hand, but it's not at full strength for sure. So the other idea, the third point, is he's testing his arm. It's like practice. It's like if you have an athlete that's, shooting baskets before the game, or if you have a baseball player, practicing his swing and so forth. And that, I think, is a really interesting way to look at it. You guys let me know what you think, that he's literally practicing killing, stabbing. That's a really interesting way to look at it. The fourth point is that there is no particular reason, right? Some people have talked about, well, Michael still has the mind of a child. He's just kind of just doing what he does. There's nothing behind it at all. I can maybe meet you maybe about 30% with that. I do think that the idea of him having a childlike mind is fairly feasible, but at the same time, Michael has shown some real craftiness, some intelligence throughout all of the movies, and specifically talking about this trilogy, in this case Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills, including 78 of course in this timeline. So I don't know if I go all in with that idea that he's just kind of a child, he's just doing what he does. But here's the overarching way that I look at this. Yes, he could be testing out his arm, checking out which knife he wants to use, all those types of things. But in my mind, he bandaged up his hand. Now, again, he's a man. He had to bandage up his hand because he was bleeding. It was an injury. He didn't look at his hand and all of a sudden it got better. He grew fingers or whatever, because he's not supernatural. He's not superhuman. He has elements of that. And they've always displayed that, even in Carpenter's movie from 78. He's like right at that edge of supernatural and man, right? So he bandaged up his hand, but then he gets that knife. He wants the correct knife for whatever reason, whether he was checking out his good arm or checking out which blade works the best. He's preparing for war. Now, when I say that, it sounds so epic and so forth. That's, maybe not the way he's looking at it, but he's getting prepared, right? That's what Michael is doing. He's getting his weaponry ready, and he is heading to his house. He dealt with a whole bunch of firefighters. He was tricked by Laurie Strode. He's like, screw this. He's like, I got business to attend to, whatever that may be. You know, we don't really know what's going on in Michael's mind, but he's got business to attend to. So he has to prep up, right? Bandage up your hand, your injury's taken care of for the moment. Now, remember, when we get to ends, can you imagine the infection? It's not like Michael is going to go to the hospital or anything, right? It's gross. But anyways, he's preparing for war, and we saw that further into the movie. That's exactly what he had to be ready for, because everybody was coming for him. I mean, people were taking shots at him throughout the whole film. You know, when he goes to the park, you got Marion, you got the doctor and the nurse, you got Lindsay, you know, people are hitting him with bricks, they're trying to shoot at him. I mean, it's like bam, bam, bam. You got the mob, you know, everybody, evil's gonna die tonight. Well, it didn't die that night, right? And then him against the town of Haddonfield, or, you know, 20 people or so, whatever, him against Karen. So he is intelligent, and this is why I'm not really big on the child point of view. Like I said again, you know, he may have a childlike mind, but he is most definitely an intelligent character. He's shown intelligence. He's shown a way to be crafty. He stalks, you know. So that takes intelligence, right? And he's shown that. He was preparing for war. He was preparing for battle because he knew, in my mind, he knew it wasn't like he was just going to stroll on down the street and get to his house. For whatever reason, he's going there. So he knew he had to be ready. So that's how I see this scene. That's how I see it playing out. Getting yourself situated with your injury, preparing for war, get your knife, boom, let's go. And I think it's really, really cool, guys, because that scene, you could just watch it and say, oh, he went to a house and killed some old people. Wow. Yeah, okay, that's what it is on the surface, but there was a lot of stuff going on in the background and underneath. It was a lot more layers, and I think David Gordon Green was trying to show that, right? Because it's not just him going in there and just killing them. It's the way that everything happened, showing you his hand with that fresh bandage, showing him going through that ritual, you know? So anyways, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Was this something that I was overblowing? You know, did you see this as well? Why did Michael go to the house? Was it just, you know, him just kind of walking around and he goes in there, or did he go there for a reason? To take care of his injury and to get his weapon ready and so forth? Let me know in the comment section down below. We can continue our discussion about this just like we have for our other videos. Also, if you haven't hit the like button, please do. This is the time to do it. If you're a horror fan, if you enjoy Halloween, this is the channel to go to. So make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, and also click on the bell notification so you know when I upload more videos and live streams later on. So anyways, I'll catch you guys later. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you're the Night Watch. Peace.